Hey guys, at the request of some people, I'm redoing the video that I did on raw veganism and eating disorders. Apparently the quality wasn't up to scratch, kind of have to agree with that actually, so I'll redo this. I've actually just watched my video and I've jotted down some notes, so I'm kind of half going to be reading at you while I'm doing this. First off, again, like any video that I do that is in reference to other people, I'm not putting people down, it's not judging, it's just I'm trying to give you another perspective so that you can weigh up what information you're being given now and perhaps get some new information to enlighten you onto how to make the best decisions for yourself. So while they're not judgments as such, you know, as mentioned before, we are all brothers and sisters. I love everyone equally. But just as I have my own little sister that sometimes if she's being a bit of a brat, she needs a slap over the head. Freelee, who I mentioned in the first video, might need a bit of a wake up. The other girl that I get asked about by friends is this girl, Freelee or Kristina. Again, she's along the same lines, but she's actually really sweet, so I kind of like that girl. But at the same time, some of her ideas might not be as helpful to you as you may think. And just remember, there are actual real practitioners on YouTube. I mean, YouTube's great. It's great that you can get on there and say what you want to say and present your ideas, and everyone can do it. But just remember, there are actual real practitioners on YouTube, and we give you things that we would normally charge people money to hear. So just remember, I mean, some of the better people on YouTube have like 300 views per video or 3,000 tops for Paul Chek, who's probably one of the leading experts on health in the world. And some of these people have millions of views, and it's great. Nothing's about numbers, but it's just you can see where the information's going and what people are picking up on. So just keep that in mind. Now, what I brought up first in the first video was that when somebody has an eating disorder, it's generally driven by some sort of shadow persona, which we all have. We all have our ego. We all have had certain things happen in childhood, or certain actions and reactions to foods or situations, events, whatever, that can culminate in an eating disorder. Now what happens is that the worst thing for our ego or for our shadow is for it to die. In fact, it will never die. If you glimpse it, you may recognize that you have an eating disorder, say bulimia or anorexia or any other number of eating disorder, which again are not uncommon in this day and age, especially among young women. However, if you glimpse it, the shadow's not going to die. All it's going to do is morph into something else. So when you've had an eating disorder and then you come across, say, raw veganism, now you think you're really healthy and you're on the right track, generally what's happened is that that's morphed into, your eating disorder is just morphed into raw veganism, which again is just another eating disorder disguised as something else. Another way that I describe that is that you can have an obese person, and you see quite often these transformations that people post on the internet, and they do all these things. And so they've gone from being a very overweight person to going on stage and being a figure competitor. So now they're on stage as a figure competitor, they're ripped to shreds, they're really lean, they've got muscles, they think they're really fit and healthy. And what's happened is that those same demons that were driving them to become fat and overweight are the same ones that are driving them to overstress their body because in order to get to that stage when you're on stage as a figure competitor, you really have to stress your body. You're depriving yourself of a lot of different foods, you're overtraining, you're doing a lot of things. The other side of that coin is that, they perceive themselves as being fitter, happier, healthier. But the thing is, if they were to go and put on a little bit of weight, what happens to that happiness then? I guarantee it kind of goes away. It diminishes a little, right? Because their happiness is based on their physique, their external reality of what they present to the world. So it's not a true happiness because that happiness is attached to something physical or something outside of themselves, when actual happiness, of course, is just an inner state of being. So what happens is that it's not better. Being a raw vegan is not better than not being a raw vegan. Being lean and fit and have a six-pack is not better than being an obese person. Despite what a lot of people say, it's not better, it's just different. So you've got to recognise the difference between external realities or illusions and what's actually happening inside the body, and just as importantly inside the mind and of course the heart as well. So until we become aware of these shadows, they'll always run our lives. And when you've got something as extreme as dieting to go on stage as a figure competitor, or being as extreme as a raw vegan, there is a very, very large part of life that you're actually missing out on. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that you're not actually living life. You're stuck in a self-perpetuating matrix inside of yourself, and it's really holding you back from experiencing all that life has to offer. Now, what I put in the first video is when I suggest that if you're a raw vegan, you have an eating disorder, just notice if you react to that at all, because you, as an entity or as a being, you can't react. The only thing that can react is an ego. So if you have reactions to my words, just notice that, and notice it's an opportunity for you to go inside and just recognize these things going on inside of yourself, if that's the case for you. An example of that is that when you react to something, so especially at the organic markets down here, I may mention something just in passing conversation that, oh yeah, I had a really nice meal, or blah blah blah, and then vegans are obviously around there all the time, and they're like, oh, you eat meat, and they get defensive, or they'll even be a little bit aggressive. And in that situation, I just smile, send them a bit of love. When the shoe's on the other foot, you know, it's, again, we, as a meat eater, somebody that's just relaxed and just in tune with life, you very rarely react to these things. It's people that are on the extreme outsides, whatever you want to call that, on the verge, on the outside, they're generally the ones that react quite heavily. And again, when you understand it's only the ego that can react, it should point you in the direction as to what is driving these decisions that you're making as far as what foods to eat, what's put in your body, what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. Which of course those don't exist anyway, they're only thoughts, actions and consequences, the rest is of course ego. So determine what's us, yeah, so again, that just helps you determine whether or not it's your ego that thinks it's right, which it always does, or it's us, our actual selves, that are making the right decisions. Now the other thing that pointed me in the direction that Freelee had an eating disorder, and a lot of these people do, is that a lot of people, especially on the internet, they do a lot of their videos with their shirts off. Now in some cases, as I'm going to have to do as myself as well, it's necessary because you're going to have to show, sometimes you have to demonstrate something, and you need to see what's happening with the muscles, what your body's doing, where it's moving, where your navel's going, or this, that and the other. But a lot of people do it, and you can see it in their eyes and the way they present themselves. It's like the whole, it's like, look at me, look at my body. And a lot of people do it. And firstly, if you're doing that, that's a nice little blowout. If you're doing that, you're generally, you're focusing too much on the physical side and at the behest of the greater scope of life. And a lot of people do that. It's a trap that a lot of people fall into. The second thing is that focusing too much on the physical, yeah, it's gonna hold you back. But there's too much, when there's too much emphasis on it, and I'm not spitting that point out, let's just leave that one. You get where I'm going anyway. If you're doing a lot of people are doing it because they're like, look, I've got a flat belly, look at me, do what I do. But you know, it's the same reason you don't want to use professional athletes as your, for you know, to measure dietary standards or exercise regimes or whatever, because who was that guy? Bo Jackson. If you don't know who Bo Jackson is, look him up. He's one of the most naturally talented athletes ever. Never touched weights, played one sport in season, and then when it's the other season he plays another. I think it was baseball and football he played. So, you know, baseball, summer, football, winter, however it works in the States. And he excelled in both. Never went to the weight room, never practiced specifically with the sport, because in the off season he was just playing another sport. So for you to go, I'll eat what Bo Jackson eats, or I'll do his training regime, it's just, you can't take, there are vegan professional athletes, and people go, oh yeah, this guy's a triathlete, he does Ironman triathlons, and he just eats bananas. It's like, well, good for him, he's probably not healthy for one. He's just lucky that he can do that. And two, you can't do that because you're not him or her, or whatever. It's like, there's all these extreme diets that come out. I'm getting off topic, as I usually do, but I don't read newspapers. I did pass a newsagent, and I saw this thing on diet, and I had to have a quick look at the front page. It was called the 5-to-2 diet. It's a ratio, 5-to-2, which meant that for 5 days, you basically intermittently fast, and for 2 days you just eat whatever the hell you want. And then apparently people are losing weight on this, so then it's front page news for some reason. And then again, this stuff is so stupid. It's like there are actual practitioners on YouTube that will give you free advice on how to become healthy. Having said that, you are such an individual, and the reason you see a practitioner is that every diet or all the advice I give to people is individually tailored. You can't just take a specific way of doing anything and just apply it randomly to people. That's why you shouldn't go buying programs off the internet or ordering DVDs and things, because most of them are just crap. It's just, they're not crap. Some of it has valuable information, but is it valuable to you? It might be valuable to someone else and not you. Keep that in mind. Just an example I have of that is that you could take somebody that looks literally like a statue of a god, right? And you ask them what their regime is, and they go, well, for breakfast I eat 7 almonds. Then for lunch I do 7 push-ups. Then before I go to bed I wrap a piece of bacon around my head and I go to sleep. And then people will come out and call that the 7-7 bacon wrap diet, and everyone will go, oh, I'm going to buy that, and the book will sell 30 million copies, there'll be DVDs, they'll go on Oprah or whatever that show is in the States. It just shows you the stupidity of following what other people do, basically. Now when you are looking at somebody, let's say they have a nice body or something, I've done this in the yoga videos and things, but I'll quickly touch on it again. I've had clients, I'll just use girls for example because it seems to be girls making these videos. I've had girl clients that are a little soft around the edges, but can outperform physically, mentally, emotionally, they're happier, outperform sexually. Just everything, that is just a much calmer, happier person, know their place in life, happy with their body, happy with their life. And, you know, but looking at them, they don't have a six-pack, or they don't have whatever, or you know, they don't have the flattest belly in the world. Well, some people do, but the point is that looks can be deceiving, and a lot of people, Paul Chek, he's one of the people, but a lot of people refer to what you would call fit sick people, which is where you have a very, very lean-looking person and looks outwardly fit, but on the inside they're just destroyed. Their metabolism's destroyed. They've got mental, emotional issues. They've got eating disorders like raw veganism. There's a lot going on, and for us, it's a trap we fall into as humans to take everything on face value and not look any deeper. And I just encourage you to look a little deeper into a lot of these things. Look a little deeper into yourself, for one, and just find out what it is that you want in life, because as I mentioned in all my other videos, the matrix is keeping you from that, and I don't know a lot of people that are actually living their purpose in life. Scan through some of my other videos, they'll help to explain that for you a little more. Now, so I've covered the other people, fit sick people, covered that. Flat belly is associated with habit. Yeah, again, let's say, I understand, look, if somebody's come from an eating disorder, let's say they were fat, I think that Freelee girl might have been fat, now she's skinny or something. So now she's happy. First of all, as I mentioned before, what happens if she gets fat again? What happens if something happens in the next few years that screws up her metabolism? She's doing that with raw veganism anyway, but let's just say something happens. Has a car accident. Of course I wouldn't wish that on anyone. Let's say she breaks both her legs, she can't do any exercise, these 30 bananas a day are going to go straight to her ass, and she starts getting fat. She doesn't have a flat belly anymore. Now where's her happiness, right? I guarantee you she's not going to be this happy. I can tell she's not happy in her videos anyway because she rants so much and tries to put people down, but just, again, stop taking things on face value. Our physical body is definitely a big part of our life, but in the whole scope and the grander scale of life, it is a very small thing. I've done videos on the 4 bodies. Have a look at those, that can explain that a little more. Again, you're not really living life if you're that focused if you're so focused on what you're putting into your mouth and into your body, and you're so focused on your physical body, you're missing out on a whole bunch of life that is a whole lot more, just a whole lot better than what you're actually focusing on. So as for answering my friends that have asked these questions, raw veganism mostly comes down to dogma and propaganda. If you're not aware of those sort of terms, what they mean, just think of world media and news, things like that. A lot of what you think about the world and how it works and how it runs is based on dogma and propaganda. And those things are there to make you think and feel a certain way, which makes you behave and act in a certain way and do things in a certain way, which generally gives your energy and your power away to the people that are feeding you the dogma and propaganda. So the thing to question for yourself is, are you making decisions based on what your heart tells you, or are you making decisions based on what your filters are telling you what's right and wrong? And your filters are just, you know, you read a book that says, oh, animal food's all poison, so that's going into your mind, and then you can sit down and eat a perfectly healthy bit of animal food, but what happens is you cite that, it goes through the filter tells you, your mind and your body that it's bad, your body releases chemicals that it's just, even if that food's good, it's going to be bad for you because you've stressed your system out. So, and a lot of us, we all, based on our beliefs and things, view the world through filters, and most of them aren't good for us. That's why most of my videos are about breaking these filters down, so that even though life is actually an illusion, at least it lets you see the real illusion and not these other fake bits and pieces. I'll try to stay on track, I promise. So again, there's reality and there's the matrix life, and most people are stuck in a matrix reality. Now, one person that's considered, I always mention him in videos because he is considered as a world leader in all things health, movement, everything, is Paul Chek. Now, for a while, Paul Chek, I can't remember if he still is or not, but he was or is or became a vegetarian for a certain period of time. Now, most of his life's work, he's built an institute based on enlightening people as to how our bodies work, how we function, how we came to be, and a lot of it is based on the consumption of high-quality animal fats and proteins. He advocates this a lot in his book, How to Eat, Move and Be Healthy. Now, of course, when he came out and became a vegetarian, a lot of people, a vegetarian is different to vegan, of course, keep that in mind, but when he became a vegetarian, a lot of people came out and gave him a lot of flack. The thing is, my take on that is that, first of all, Paul did not become a vegetarian because of dogma and belief. He became a vegetarian because his heart told him. Now, that's a huge distinction to make. You've got to understand how important that is. The other thing is that Paul is over 50, so he's past his developmental stage of having children, building an empire, creating this, creating that, doing this, expending a lot of energy, growing, all that kind of thing into the world. He's past that stage. Of course, as beings, we never stop developing and growing and creating. However, he's past that, what you might call the main stage. Like if you're 30 and you're going to be having kids, you're still making your mark in your world. If you're under that, if you're 40, you're still, you know what I mean? You're still doing a lot of these things. You have a higher requirement for high quality animal fats and proteins. If you're past that like Paul was, and his body's telling him that he can sustain his current life adequately on just more plant-based foods, then that's fine. And if you're in that situation and your heart's telling you that, then that's fine. You may go back onto animal foods, you may not, it doesn't matter, you've just got to take things one day at a time. The trap is to start forming beliefs about things and then making decisions based on your beliefs, your filters, and so on and so forth. So yeah, one of the world's leading experts on health became a vegetarian. I think he's off it now, I'm not sure. You can look that up for yourself. So yeah, again, he explains all that and why we need it, and then he did that. Look, and especially if he's competed in sport, he's done all that, I've already said that. He's done everything, he's still doing good things, but again, it was his heart telling him, not dogma. I've said that 5 times in a row, so we'll get off that for now. Still developing, so yeah, we went through that. If you're going to be having children, yeah, okay, so especially if you're pregnant too, I believe that, okay, I don't believe, because I don't believe in beliefs. Having no beliefs is a belief, you know that, right? But I've said this before a lot of times, beliefs hold you back. That's why all I try to do is have observations. I don't form beliefs on them. However, in this world, this is, as I said in We Don't Need Laws in my Laws Evaporate video, in this world, if you just live by cause no harm or loss, which means cause no harm or loss to another person being their property or whatever else like that, right? If you just live by that, you don't need laws. You just don't. So, I think for you, if you just want to be a vegan and you just want to live like that, knock yourself out. Because you're just going to knock yourself out, right? You're not going to knock anyone else out. But if you're pregnant with a child, just keep in mind that there are very, very specific processes in the body, such as your endocrine system, that rely heavily on high quality animal fats and proteins. So for you just to live in your head and go, no, it's wrong to do this, we're going to live this way. So while we're procreating and having low sperm count and low fertility and other things, and we're lucky enough to make a baby being a vegan, and then we're going to eat a vegan diet while this baby's growing inside of us, the mother this is, and then we're going to have the baby and then raise it as a vegan because we believe that's how they should. You're really not doing that child a favour. And if you go through a few generations of doing that, you're going to have some pretty dopey kids. So again, that's not a judgment, it's just how things are going to be. I'm trying not to sound condescending when I say things like that, but it's just the reality of what's going to happen. There are certain processes in the body that require this. You're just thinking you're smarter than nature and doing it this way, and I'm not even saying that's wrong, I'm just saying there's going to be consequences. If you can live with that and make those decisions for your child, for their future development, then that's your decision to make, not mine. Not my place to judge whether or not you do that either. But it's pretty much, you know, a lot of people look down on a mother for smoking, drinking, for having a little baby and giving them coke. One of my friends' daughters, she's 18, lovely girl, had a kid at 17, 18. She brings this baby over. obviously doesn't really know how to raise a baby. And, you know, why should she? She hasn't been told or, you know, learned how to do it. She's feeding the baby blue Gatorade, Powerade. This baby does a shit in its nappy that comes out the top of its nappy. It's blue because the Powerade was blue. She freaks out, doesn't know what I had to clean the baby up and that. But it's just, you know, you don't... A lot of people aren't thinking very straight when they're... A lot of people just don't know. It's nobody's fault because they haven't been told. But the point of this talking in circles little effort is that it is just as bad to eat a vegan diet when you're carrying a baby and to raise a child as a vegan as it is to give them Coca-Cola and cigarettes and alcohol. It's literally the same thing. Keep that in mind. Yeah, just something else that goes along on the extremism of veganism is that at the local markets, the ones that are sort of half doing organic stuff, I had to walk through there, and one of the products in there was vegan dog food. And you know, you've really got to start questioning how far you're going as a vegan when you think you're going to start raising animals as vegans too. When if you look in their mouth and smell their breath and look at their tongue and just look at a dog in the wild, it's not eating a lot of plants, people. It's not eating grass. It's eating flesh. You know, so just again, I'm not judging. I'm not trying not to judge people for this. It's just using some common sense and just looking at nature and what nature wants and not what you want. They're two different things. Now, done that. Yeah, just on the baby thing, as I mentioned in the relationships video that I did, I will be putting out that video on how to create a healthy baby. So if people want that sooner than later, just write me and I'll put that at the top of the list. It's you know, I've got a few other projects that I'm working on. Yeah, again, it's not fair on the kid if you're going to do that. I've already done that. You know, the main point I brought up in the last video is that, you know, while I can tell you that, and that's based on actual research because I'm an actual practitioner, not just an internet, I'll go on the internet and find out in 5 minutes that you can feed kids formula and veganism's good. You can literally click onto the internet right now, within a few minutes you'll find all the evidence that you want to support raising a vegan child, to support the fact that animal foods are poison to the body. Now, they're not, but let's just say that they were, right? Your body has so many ways and levels, you don't have to think that hard. This is the whole point. Your body can deal with it. Even if there were such thing as mycotoxins that are derived from eating meats, right? Oxygen in high quantities is poisonous to the body. So, you know, what happens then? You now tell people to stop breathing. Stop breathing oxygen. It's evil. It's poisonous. You know, where do you draw the line with this sort of stuff? The other thing is that most of the time you're talking about commercially raised, you know, animals that aren't living a natural life, animals that are deprived of the life they were meant to live, animals that are fed foods they're not meant to eat, injected with antibiotics, steroids, all these things. It's very, very... I don't like to think about that sort of thing because it makes me sad to think about it. Now, yes, I eat animal foods, but I don't eat those foods. I eat properly raised, happy, healthy, naturally living, organically raised animals, which are very, very healthy for the body. They're two different things. And as I mentioned in the last video, if it came down to a world where the only choices I had were organic fruits and vegetables, or let's say an organic vegan diet, or commercially raised animal foods, I would be a vegan, no question. Okay, so just again, that's an important distinction to make when people are talking about this is bad, that's not bad, whatever. And I hope that for the people that are vegans and for people that are vegan and saying how bad animal products are for the body, I hope they're eating a fully organic diet, because I hope you realise how much inorganic plant crops are destroying the world more so than some of the farming practices that people have for livestock and chickens and things like that, fish, even though I'm totally against the way that those things run. However, I think I made my point. So, making that distinction, we've done that. We covered vegan dog food. Made that little joke about 30 bananas a day. Look, I'm sure your poo smells really good, but it's just... There's just... When you're doing something that extreme, you just question it. Anything that extreme. If you're running 30 miles a day, I hope you're training for a marathon or whatever, you know. But again, marathon runners aren't healthy people. If you're doing anything extreme, question it. Then look at what's driving that. Then look at how that came to be and just try to deal with these things. Most people just love the fact that they're doing something extreme. It defines them. But it's, again, as I mentioned, it's holding you back. It is going deeper than we have to, but it's just you've got to realise that. Again, with research, most research is bullshit, especially in the Western world. It's all part of the matrix. Just some of it has validity, but with the amount of bullshit, how do you know, how can you take the ones that have validity and understand that they're actually got anything worthwhile, looking into? Because it's very, very hard to find. Again, like I said in the first video, I tried to do some research on the worst thing I could think of, and apparently you can, if you're a pedophile, there are some benefits to the connection that you can build with a child if you're a pedophile. Now, of course, we all know that that's stupid, but research shows that that is apparently the case. So when you're looking into research, question the research, okay? And again, so the point of the research thing is that I've done research as a practitioner and just as an individual to understand and to show how and why animal foods are important to the body. Vegans do a lot of research which shows the opposite, and I'm sure you can find plenty to support that. However, the point of research is that it always generally is there to sell something. You can't sell truth. I've said this 100 times before. You cannot sell truth. It's the hardest thing to sell. It doesn't sell. What sells is hype and marketing. So that's why people come out with, let's say, my 7-7 bacon wrap diet. That would sell more. I can sell that more than I can sell what I'm telling you now, because what I'm just sharing with you now is just how things are. And they're observations. They're not judgments. They're not me trying to, make something work in my favour so that I can profit from it. And people are taking, I mentioned Gabriel Cousins in there. I can't remember what that was in reference to, but he has some good stuff. I respect some of his work, but there's so many holes in his game, to the point where I don't know how he's allowed to call himself a doctor, on his books and things like that, because it's just, there is so much missing in there. But he has some good points. And then, so for somebody that wants to believe some of those things, they're going to have a very hard time distinguishing fact from fiction. Now, the point of that was that I've grown up in the Western world just as you have. So we've all had to do our research. One thing I admire about vegans, as I mentioned before, is that they always take their health seriously. So they're willing to put in the time, invest the time and effort to research health, to be able to find out how best to feed themselves. Again, as I said before, it's unfortunate what they're buying into, but at least it shows that their heart's in the right place. So rather than look at scientific research, what I did when I came to understand nutrition properly was that I stopped looking at any research that was done on food, and I just looked at research that was done on cultures. Specifically, the most untouched cultures by the Western world, and the ones that were the healthiest, least disease-free. I mentioned in the other video about how we think medicine's brought things forward, and my dad always argues with me on this. The lifespan and things. What happens with lifespan, just quickly, is that infant mortality is lower. There are a lot of babies that probably should die, and they're saved through hospital methods. And then you have people at the far end of life. If you look at a lot of ancient cultures and current cultures that are living natural lives, you have 90-year-olds out gardening every day. These days, even 50-year-olds are in machines and respirators and wheelchairs and stuff. And through machines and drugs, a combination of the two, their lifespan has extended. So what we've done is reduce infant mortality at this end and extended the zombie range, which I call it, at that end. It's not a life, they're not living a life. So nobody's lifespan is actually extended. It's just this illusion. Most of life is an illusion, as I say. But just quickly on animal foods then, before I finish up with that last point, is that when people think of animal foods, they're thinking of meat, right? Meat is the least valuable part of an animal. What's more valuable is, if you're talking about a dead animal, the organs, the offal meats, they're highly prized. The bones, to make a bone broth, which is super mineral dense, you get the gelatin and things like that out of, which are non-inflammatory proteins, which is important to understand. But what you can do is, rather than kill an animal, you can actually live off, say, the eggs, the milk. You can make butter and dairy with cultures and probiotics and things like that. There's a lot that you can get from an animal that doesn't require the killing in the animal. Not to say that it's not necessary in some cases to kill an animal, but what happens is, unlike in our culture where we just, we'll throw a slab this big of meat on a barbecue and then wash it down with beer, and to us it's just this slab of meat, it just came from the butcher, right? But that's not how we came to be as a human species. What would happen is, if we killed an animal as a tribe, as we used to do, there was a prayer offered for the animal. It was like there was a lot of gratitude in the exchange of flesh for life and things like that. In that Avatar movie, which I think is great for kids to watch, I think, well, I watched it years ago, but there's a guy that stumbles through and pisses off the dogs, and the dogs attack him, and so the girl comes down and she has to kill the dogs, otherwise they kill him. And then he's like, oh, thanks for that, and she's like, you're an idiot. And she's going around with a, just connecting with these, offering the spirit, blah, blah. I don't know if you understand all that sort of stuff or believe in it, but it's just, I'll leave that for other videos. But it's just, that process is what we used to do, and it's why it's not a bad or wrong thing to eat an animal, because there's a certain amount of respect, gratitude and things that is meant to go on. And for those of us that understand that, we do that. For those that just think meat comes from a shop and things like that, there's a massive disconnect, and that's more of a problem than the killing of the animal. Is that the energy that is pervading life in the earth with that kind of attitude and disconnect. So again, I looked at the cultures that were most untouched by man, and all of them, bar none, ate animal foods. And we're talking about people that are highly in tune with themselves, highly in tune with nature, the sun, the moon, the stars, the earth, the seeds, the winds, animals, plants, flowers, with God. And they all eat animal foods. These people don't think it's wrong, okay? These people don't think it's unhealthy because they're in tune. They know full well what's good for them, and that when they do it consciously, it's not a bad thing to do. Now, so Gabe Cousins, again, he thinks that for some reason humans have been vegan for 3.2 million years, and then I think that was in one of his books. But, I'll cover him in another video. Again, he's just, does some good things, but has a lot missing from his research. But even if there were vegan tribes found, right, small pockets of them, close by, there was a community that ate animal foods that was doing better as a community. They were more successful, they were more productive, they were happier, healthier, stronger. So I think some of the vegan ones were probably vegans because they didn't know how to capture themselves in animals or whatever. They were the only ones found. Okay, so if again, you don't have to believe me, do your own research. Try to do ones that aren't produced by vegans. Just find just impartial research that's done on tribes untouched by Western culture. So we've covered that. What else did we cover in the first one? Okay, so if you think it's wrong to eat animals, just remember, as I just said, what the most spiritually in tune people on earth do, and they eat animals. And then again, remember that most of life is just an illusion anyway, and what most people fail to grasp is that life is basically just one consciousness experiencing itself in many different ways. And for you to, in your mind, judge that there's a difference between a plant, an animal, a flower, a rock, or us as human beings, it's very egotistical to think that we're above anything else when we're the same as everything else. We're all made of the same stuff. So it's just a bit naive, and it's just when you start to sort of see how raw veganism is an eating disorder, and how people are judging that there's a difference between plants, animals, flowers, rocks, this, that, and the other, you can sort of start to see, I hope, where that some of these people aren't necessarily a full bag of carrots, so to speak. And again, just to reiterate, there are very good practitioners on YouTube giving you free advice on nutrition and life and everything else that aren't just coming from their own want to spread whatever they're trying to spread. And as I said in the first video, the main reason if a vegan asks me why I eat animals is because I don't pretend to be smarter than, I don't pretend to judge life itself. So I'll leave you with that. Thanks very much for watching. If you do have any further questions, feel free to ask me. The girl who was that, Freelee Kristina, I love your work. I think you're a beautiful person. Just, I hope you got maybe something out of this video if you ever watch it. Freelee, I hope you kind of get some of those issues worked out, and I think you'll have a better life as a result. Anyway, thanks for watching again. Catch you on the next video.